So this is a continuation from last, 2 weeks ago. I think these came up pretty
pretty quickly.
rapid. Yeah, and we really loved 26 Daredevil 26. I think it's done some of the best work as a tie-in to an event. Chip has really been able to merge his current story with the King in Black narrative, which is very, that's not an easy thing to do. We've seen a lot of tie-in books not do that very well, and so Chip has done a great job of tying in his narrative with the King in Black narrative, and it's been really good. And he continues that in this book. We get a continuation of what Elektra, and spoilers if you haven't been reading Daredevil, if you don't want to hear these, then just giving you a heads up. But Elektra is Daredevil now, and so she is dealing with the symbiotes and trying to basically just keep Hell Kitchen standing. And then Murdock, he got turned into a symbiote in prison. And what we get in this issue is just that continuation of those stories. And I think Chip did a great job of showing, you automatically assume when Daredevil gets turned into a symbiote that he's just going to be instantly bad in prison. And in this book, it's like, no, we're going to Chip's going to play with it a little bit. And so we actually get an internal conflict between Daredevil and Knull trying to corrupt Daredevil.
Yeah.
I thought that was freaking awesome.
Yeah, I liked it a lot, and I thought it was pretty interesting at how well he's able to actually fight him off.
Yeah, and he calls back to his faith. I mean, that's like the first thing he does is like, no, I'm Catholic, and he just goes down that road, and Knull's just really kind of laughing at him, going like, you're worshiping a false god. I am the one true void god, and they just kind of go back and forth, and they're having this internal battle. And then on top of that, you have the battle that his physical body is having in the prison. Mm-hmm. And so just watching him go back and forth with that, I thought was really neat. And then, I mean, dude, if there was ever a case to not venomize somebody, don't do Typhoid Mary. Like, crap. She is boss in this book. Like, oh man, she was basically tracking down Daredevil, or she doesn't know that it's Elektra. She just sees the Daredevil suit and automatically is like, revenge.
Right.
And she's badass in this book too. Like, you can't stop her. And I think the craziest thing about that whole part of the story is that she essentially has a deal with Knull that if she can kill Daredevil, then she will sacrifice herself to Knull, and he can have control of her body. And that's what we get in this book with her. Elektra can't stop her. Elektra can't stop her in this book, to the point where she has to stop thinking like she's Daredevil and start thinking in her own terms and her own tactics, and figuring out a way to not necessarily defeat her, but just get away from her. So Elektra's not really... She's kind of out of her element in this book a little bit, because she's so like enveloped in Daredevil that she can't think about her own training, right?
Yeah. She's very much like, I don't know, trying to make sure that she stays true to Daredevil the entire time.
She's playing with the rules, like playing with the principles of Daredevil.
Right.
And in that little chase that she has with her, we get that mother that was turned into a symbiote as well. Mm. She meets an untimely end in this book. She actually gets killed by Typhoid.
That scene looks like it captured straight out of a Something is Killing the Children. Like,
really?
The blades, the blade hands, and the way the blood kind of trickles out, and like it literally looks like who's the artist on this?
There's two, isn't there?
Yeah, I believe this is the main one. Chichetto. Anyway, it seems like he was like doing a direct like homage, almost like super obvious. I liked it a lot.
I mean, it was pretty gruesome.
Yeah.
But what we find, I think there's been this assumption that if you are enveloped with a symbiote, that any kind of harm that is dealt to you, you would assume you'd be okay. And that is not the case in this book. That mom meets her end. Like, she is dead. She's not coming back from that one. And so, in this chase that Elektra, I'm going to finish up the Elektra storyline so we can go back to Daredevil and then end with Kingpin. Because Kingpin ends at really the beginning. But with Elektra, what she ends up doing is she can't survive this fight. So she basically plays dead. At one point, they're jumping off of she jumps off the top of a building and slams into a car and then stops her heart. And so Typhoid thinks that she's dead, or that Daredevil's dead. And so she walks away. She gives herself to Knull. That's the end of Typhoid, at least that we know of. And then Elektra pops up, and the little girl of the mother is literally crying because she finds out that her mom died. And Elektra, at that point, it's a really heartfelt moment. Elektra kind of just embraces the girl and is like, we got to keep moving. This isn't going to work out. Sorry, your mom died. So that kind of wraps up that part of the storyline. That's actually the end of the book. But then we go back to actual Daredevil in prison. And again, he's having this internal conflict, this internal fight between him and Knull. And it was a really good dialogue of just showing the human spirit, I guess. And I could even say Daredevil's blind faith. He entrusts his being to his faith, and I'm not sure. I haven't completed the entire Daredevil run up to now, so I don't know if that's still a pretty prolific theme through the book. But to me, that's the first time it's popped up.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty prolific theme for every Daredevil book, pretty much. But it is definitely in this one as well. Yeah,
it jumped, it screams in this book, which is not a bad thing. And so he, they go at it mentally, and he, at one point, one of the prisoners that was his bunkmate realizes that there's some kind of internal conflict going on with Daredevil. And so at one point, the symbiote Daredevil has, taken care of a majority of the symbiotes in the prison, and he's trying to figure out a way to get himself rid of the symbiote, to the point where he locks himself in the room where they execute prisoners, and he's able to, basically that other prisoner is able to pull the switch on him and electrocute him to get the symbiote off of him. I thought that was pretty damn epic as well. But I think the biggest thing, and I think you said it when we first talked about this book, is the connectivity of what happens at the beginning of this book to one of the other books that we're going to get to, which is Thunderbolts. Kingpin in Thunderbolts 1 set up the team, and we're like, well, wait, what's going on? There's a lot of, I wouldn't say confusion, but there's just the timeline isn't fitting. And so in this book, we kind of get that sequence of events that led us up to Thunderbolt with Kingpin. Because he's a man of action, right? So he wants to make sure that he's in control. And so what we get in this book is basically the idea or the formation of him doing the Thunderbolts in this book, what led to that decision making, right? So thought that was pretty neat. Overall, I really again enjoyed Daredevil. I think Chip did a great job of really melding the two ideas together. It's not my pick of the week, but it's still I enjoyed that it still felt like a fluid story rather than we got through the first tie-in and now we're just trying to. It didn't feel like he was just trying to finish it. He had a purpose in his tie-in.
Yeah, I think it was interesting that he somehow was able to continue his own story with Elektra being Daredevil and Matt in jail. He was able to add, background story to King in Black, and he was able to tie his story into a third writer's tie-in in Thunderbolts. That's pretty hard to do that much lining up, but I'm proud of him and whoever I guess the editors were for these books. They did a good job.
Definitely having some communication across writers and artists. Overall, yeah, great book. Love this cover too. The Daredevil covers have just been fantastic, like through the entire, up to this point. I think they're composed very well, and so I really dig this cover.